Everybody to the 6th episode of the All Ball No Foul podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in for today. And Nick, we have a huge episode to talk about, so let's dive in. What are we going to talk about?
Huge. This is going to be an unbelievable episode. We're going to be breaking down our reaction about Kyrie Irving getting traded to the Dallas Mavericks. What does it mean for the Dallas Mavericks in the short term, long term? What does this mean for the Brooklyn Nets? We're also going to be talking about our reaction to the All-Star selection for the starters and the reserves. You know, because we gave our predictions last episode for people who have watched. And we're going to talk about who got snubbed in our opinion, who got robbed. And also we're going to be talking about 3 teams that should be looking to upgrade their roster at the trade deadline. And we're going to talk about 2 teams that should be trading away their best players for the long haul.
Definitely, Nick. And I think that these are going to be a lot of great topics. So we're going to dive into the Kyrie Irving trade. And I know, like on Twitter, we posted a little bit about it. And for those, again, who have not been following or been living under a rock, Kyrie Irving was traded last weekend for Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, some draft picks. So, Nick, how are you feeling about the trade? What were your first thoughts, and where does this put Dallas?
Yeah, so I was very surprised that Dallas actually made a move, because I feel like they're one of those franchises, even though they've been always good, but they never try to make moves to put themselves over the top in recent years. Even when they had Dirk, they won a championship. They didn't have the greatest roster ever.
That is true.
They had a lot of old veteran guys that just fit well with Dirk, and they knew how to play with each other as a team. And they have this talent like Luka now, where they don't want to happen what Cleveland did with LeBron's first go around. They didn't surround him with talent, and LeBron ended up leaving. So they want Luka to be as happy as possible. You know, he's a superstar player and stuff like that. So and overall, I feel like they didn't give up too much in the trade. Yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, they're 2 really good players. You know, they're going to miss Finney-Smith Jr. in the long haul. Because now, they got a lot of guys that can score the ball on this team. But the issue is, they absolutely have nobody that can play defense whatsoever. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Dallas is going to be able to make any more moves. But how the fit will look, it's going to be very interesting to see how Luka's going to be able to do without the ball at times, because he always he's pounding the basketball every single possession. Now you have a star level player like Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving doesn't need the ball in his hands, and he's been the number 2 on many teams. You know, Cavs with LeBron, Brooklyn with KD. He's used to being that second fiddle, and he's probably the best second fiddle you could have.
That is very true.
You know,
and I definitely agree with you. You know, in like everything that you're talking about in terms of Kyrie's impact and what he can bring to Dallas. Dallas not having to trade too much. You know, I think 2 things that I took away from it was they didn't have to trade Christian Wood. They didn't have to trade Tim Hardaway Jr. So those are still players that they can trade for future assets, or maybe a player for now. So I believe, and I don't know if you already have mentioned this, but again, Spencer Dinwiddie could be on the move again, and bringing back somebody like Pascal Siakam, a Fred VanVleet, or even I don't know, maybe like some other team comes out of nowhere and they have a trade with Brooklyn, because again the trade deadline is so random. So I think for most people, I think the problem with Kyrie is that it's the lack of commitment and what we've seen in Brooklyn for the last 4 years. So Mark Cuban, I know he likes to take big risks, like you said. With Dirk didn't have those superstar teammates. I know that he had Jason Kidd at the end of his career. I think his best teammate when he was in the prime was Steve Nash, and
they didn't resign him.
They did
with the Phoenix.
So that's the thing is that I feel like for the Mavericks, this was a home run in terms of the potential, but there's a lot of risk. I know that
especially defensively, there's a lot of risk, and I feel like too. This is huge for when Luka goes off the game now, because when Luka has gone subbed out, they can't score the basketball down. But now that Kyrie Irving can lead the second unit, he could start second quarters. He could start the fourth quarter, giving Luka at least 4-minute breaks now because it was like Luka would get out and then they have to put him right back in the game after a minute and a half because they're struggling when he's not on the floor.
Yeah, and it's almost like LeBron the first time he he was in Cleveland, like basically having to just carry and will a team to every game and get a win at the end. Now, I will say with Luka too is that a big thing that they didn't do was re-sign Jalen Brunson. I think that was
100% agree with that.
That was a huge issue, and I think that they regret it obviously, and it cost them still because if you think about it, if they even try and want to re-sign Kyrie, he wants something a max of like $40 to $50 million a year. So Mark Cuban's going to have to open up his pocketbooks if he really wants to keep him. And I think the other thing too is that how committed will Kyrie stay? You know, I unfortunately think that Cleveland, Boston, and Brooklyn have all had the same doom. Now with Luka, I mean he's a great talent. You know, it's not the first time Kyrie's playing with a generational player. He's played with LeBron and Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum. So
James Harden,
yeah. I mean, and
wasn't that long.
Speaking of that too, in terms of like the Nets, you know, I think the craziest part, Nick, to me is since 2021, they've traded away 2 of their big 3 at the deadline. So I just want to know, like, is it just a toxic place to just play in Brooklyn or something, or how do you feel about that?
That's very interesting. Now, thinking about that, but I don't know if it's very toxic. Maybe it's the media capital of the world. Maybe especially with like Kyrie, for example, a player that wasn't always there for a lot of different reasons. You know, and New York they're gonna get on you. You know, media they're gonna get on you. And Kyrie, I don't know if people have watched Kyrie Irving's press conference when he arrived in Dallas. He brought that up a lot about like how the media bothered him.
Or he felt disrespected.
He felt disrespected because they never talked about the good, especially this year. Yeah, you know, with the whole sharing of that post and stuff like that. Like, he's been incredible this year. And I think Kyrie, he is looking to get paid.
He definitely is.
You know, he's looking for that 4-year, 190, whatever, something like that.
Like, he wants like somewhere around $200 million for the 4-year contract. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Kyrie is a top 5 scorer in the NBA. He has the best handles. He's got the ability to go off at any given time. Yeah. And I think for, like, you know, obviously Dallas knows that, and that's why they made the risk, but that's also why Brooklyn signed him in the first place.
Absolutely, and I think Kyrie Irving, if you, like, watch the game of basketball, he's not the best player in the world. He's not a top 5 player in the world. But if you watch him play, he's probably the most skilled player in the league right now.
No, I don't disagree with that, and I just think that the biggest thing for me with Kyrie is that it's more of not necessarily his skill. I know he's a skilled player. You know, it's very hard to replace a guy like that. There's a reason why teams were going to give up a lot. Look at the Suns, look at the Clippers, look at the Lakers, and I mean there were probably other teams. I know the Timberwolves had called and tried to see, you know, what they wanted for Kyrie. I mean, you can't deny it still. It's like there's a lot of teams that are willing to give up. Now, there could have been more, but I think it's just the risks factors with him. And that's the one thing that I'll say about, unfortunately, with Kyrie's career that I think is going to get derailed for him is that it's going to be all the negative things he did and not talking about all the things he did. I mean, look at the 2016 finals run he had. He was going off. And, I mean...
He hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history.
Yeah, and I mean it's so hard to say like Kyrie is not a generational talent. It's just that everything is publicized because of social media. Yes. So if there was no social media, I don't think we would be having a lot of these conversations.
Yeah, and I think it's just like it's not just what he's done on the court when he's been available. He's also done a lot of things off the court that they never want to discuss. I think Kyrie, he deserves a lot when it comes to the media, but I think he's just one of those players that just gets a bad rep just because who he was and what he's done in the past.
That's true.
You know, for example, like the whole vaccination status, like he didn't get vaccinated and he declined an extension for Brooklyn because he didn't want to get the vaccine. And the media killed him for it. You know, that's his position, and that's also the Brooklyn Nets position for not wanting to pay him for not getting vaccinated, but there was also a lot of players that didn't get vaxxed, but they didn't want to talk about them. They only wanted to talk about Kyrie Irving.
I think it was just because of the rules in New York at the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of other cities weren't. So I think that's why. Because the only other person that really got talked about was Wiggins with that situation. Which again, because California had the rule where it's like if you're not vaccinated and you work in the state, you can't go to work. So I get it. Like, look. It was a weird time in the world, and a lot of things were going down, and I don't think that he should get ostracized for that. And there is a lot of good he has done for his community, for other people, and at the end of the day, Kyrie is a very interesting person. Like, I'm just going to leave it at that. I think that Kyrie is a skilled player. I think that there's a lot of things that we can take away from Kyrie and just say, he was just one guy that we might not ever fully understand, but he was one of the greatest players that we ever saw play.
Oh, absolutely. So, especially from a skills perspective of a basketball player. He's one of the most skilled players to ever play this game. Not saying he's one of the best, but skill. It's unbelievable.
Don't disagree. Basketball. And Nick, I think for our next topic when we come back is talking about Kyrie with the All-Star selection. So I think that was one that we didn't really see coming with the starters. So. Guys, stay tuned. We're going to keep this conversation going when we're right back. Welcome back, guys. Thank you for still staying with us today. Nick, big news while we went to break. Do you want to just tell us real quickly before we start our next topic?
Yeah, so apparently the trade's getting finalized with D'Angelo Russell's going to go to the Lakers, and there's a lot of moving parts, like Russell Westbrook in a first-round pick is going to be going to Utah. But the Lakers are also getting Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt in a 3-team trade. So it's very interesting that Rob Pelinka has landed 4 pretty solid pieces at the trade deadline. So I gotta give him some credit because obviously he's been getting hate the last few years of not making any moves. Now he's actually made a lot of moves, and D'Angelo Russell, it is an upgrade. Now they actually have some shooting now. Yeah, they have shooting with D'Lo and Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt gives them some more size. So I think during our next topic, when we talk about the teams targeting, I know we were going to probably talk about the Jazz a bit, so we'll go a little bit further into that. But for right now, Nick, let's talk about the All-Star selections for the starters and the reserves. So how good did we do? Yeah, so in the Eastern Conference, we got 3 out of the 5 starters. And in the West, we got 4 out of the 5 starters, right? In the reserves, we got the majority right, except we got 1 wrong each. I think it was, and I believe for the West, we know it was Jaren Jackson. I think that was our biggest surprise. I think everybody's surprised by that, but we'll get to the West. But I think we're going to talk about the Eastern Conference first. Yes. For starters, in my personal opinion, Joel Embiid has to be in this. I don't understand how Joel Embiid is not an all-star starter. He's first in the NBA in scoring 33.4 points per game. He's averaging 10.2 rebounds a game right now. He's averaging 4 assists for a center. That's unbelievable. And he's shooting 53% from the field, 36% from 3, 86% from the free throw line. They're third in a very good Eastern Conference. I just don't understand how Joel Embiid is not an all-star starter, wasn't named one. And now it's going to be very interesting. He should have been over Kyrie Irving. But now it's going to be very interesting to see, since Kyrie got traded into the Western Conference now, how is this all going to play out now? That is a good question, too, because, if you think about it, I believe Steph is going to miss the All-Star game because of his, I know he had a contusion, but he also has is it MCL? Or something like that. And Zion's not playing. Yeah, Zion's not playing. So I wonder if they will basically... Kevin Durant's not playing too, I don't think. No, and he's going to get replaced. So I wonder if Kyrie will just become the starting guard in the West with Luka. But I agree with you, Nick. I think the problem is that ever since the NBA took away the center position for the All-Star voting, I think that's what's just kind of caused this whole forwards just kind of dominating. And because Embiid is considered a forward... Mm-hmm. It does take away from his value because he does play the biggest position in basketball, which is a center. Mm-hmm. And, when you see Nikola Jokic in the West getting in, you're like, why isn't Embiid a starter? So I think maybe he will become a starter since Kevin Durant is not going to play. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see I think he definitely will be now, but it's just absurd to me that he wasn't named a starter.
Yeah, I feel like either and no disrespect to any of these guys because I believe that Kevin Durant, Giannis, and Jason Tatum are great forwards. All of them have a reason and an argument for why they should be a starter.
Yeah.
I just think that Embiid definitely should be in the starting lineup just based off of his position. But I get it. You know, the rules have changed. That's how they want to go about it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, I think with Kevin Durant being hurt too, and like we've talked about in the past, 50% of the vote is to the fans. That's what kind of makes it a little bit skewed and why you might see certain guys get in that should have been a starter, maybe shouldn't really be in the All-Star game. But again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And I know you probably feel a similar way about that.
I feel the same exact way. Yeah, so we got that. And then for the reserves, my opinion, I think Trae Young got snubbed. I mean, he's putting up amazing, stats. I know Atlanta hasn't been as good as what people thought they were going to be. They're still in the playoffs, right? They're in the play-in picture right now.
Yeah, they're the 8th seed for the play-in right now.
But I think we're both shocked that Drew Holiday got in. But I'm actually very excited that a player like Drew Holiday got in because people just look at, he's averaging 19 points per game, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 46% from the field, 37% from 3. They go, wow, is that really all-star numbers? But people just look at the offensive side of the ball now these days. They don't pay attention to the other side of the court. And Drew Holiday, in my opinion, is the best on-ball guard defender in the NBA. Yeah. And he's guarding the best opposing guard every single possession. He's probably the only guard that consistently gets over the top of screens. He doesn't let the switches happen. I love Drew Holiday, man. Not only he's giving so much energy on the defense end of the floor, he's still getting his offensively too, and we need to give those players more respect.
No, and I agree with that, and I think this is something that we talked about in the past episodes, and one of the biggest things is if you don't have Drew Holiday, you're not winning the finals, because, he was arguably one of the biggest reasons why you won.
He got the biggest play.
You got 2 steals. 2 games in a row. The biggest plays of the game, Drew Holiday was involved. And I think that the biggest thing is because in the NBA, there's stats fans, and then there are basketball fans. And when you're a stats fan, you really only look at the numbers. So Drew Holiday might not always have the fanciest numbers, right? And maybe he doesn't have a great shooting game. Like if you look at, let's just put, for example, Game 7, 2021, second round of the playoffs against Brooklyn. His shooting stats were terrible. But his fourth quarter, though, that was when he actually stepped up and he was hitting his shots and he was big down the stretch for them, because without his contributions, they're not winning that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris Middleton, even when he's came back, he hasn't been playing that good this year.
No.
He's only averaging like 13 points a game. I know he's coming off a bad injury and stuff. I get it, but, Drew Holiday has really been that consistent second scorer. Even though people say, 19 points is not a lot of points, but what he does defensively for this team, the fact he's giving you 19 points for what he's able to do on the defensive end of the floor as well, it's unbelievable. And he's averaging 7 assists too.
Oh, that's true.
For a guy that's not really a ball-dominant player, he's not a point guard.
Yeah.
He brings up the ball sometimes for them, but he's not that, Chris Paul kind of point guard or Trae Young kind of point. He's not one of those guys. So the fact he's averaging 7 assists, that's impressive.
That is facts. And, too, even going further, I think Chris Middleton actually, now this might sound, crazy, but I feel like his name is definitely going to be in, rumors in the offseason because of, how much money he might be owed in the player option. And there's other things, too, that could get involved. I was reading a report earlier that was talking and tying him to possible trade rumors. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with him, but going back a little bit more to the All-Stars selections, I definitely think, Bam's been having a great season. I think he deserved his pick. Obviously, DeMar, we're Bulls fans,
Absolutely.
Without DeMar, we're not where we're at right now.
Yeah.
I know Levine has played better of lately, and I know Vooch has had a pretty solid season, and Pat Will has been stepping up a little bit more lately. So, but I think without DeMar, you're not even in the play-in right now. I don't think that team is in the play-in without DeMar.
You guys know about your boy.
Oh, hey, shout out Tyrese Halliburton.
There we go.
I've been saying it.
Tyrese.
I don't care. He deserves to be an all-star. I know some people are probably thinking, Why is he an all-star? Well, I can tell you why. Is that without that man, you might not be in the play-in talk right now, and you might be really tanking. And maybe Miles Turner didn't even take that extension. So Tyrese's game, I know his
Buddy Hield would have been traded by now.
Exactly. So the thing is that I think Tyrese, again, I don't believe in win-win trades. I believe one team will eventually win that trade more. I think right now it looks like a win-win trade where Sacramento's good right now, but I think Indiana wins that trade in the long run because
of how good he's going to be.
Yeah, and he's young. Like Sabonis is an established player that's going to get older. You have more time with Halliburton. Mm-hmm. But shout out to the coaches for bringing him in. I think he definitely deserved that.
Absolutely.
Nick, so I know we talked about the East reserves. How do we feel about the West reserves?
So the West reserves, we got most of it right, but I think everybody, not just us, I think the whole basketball fan world is shocked that Jaren Jackson Jr. got in. No disrespect, he's a good basketball player. He's one of the best rim protectors in the game. He's a great overall player, but he missed so many games in the beginning of the year. And I wrote down, in my opinion, there's 3 guys that I personally would have had as all-stars even over Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, for example, De'Aaron Fox could have easily 100%. Been. I mean, they're 3rd in the West right now. A lot of people talk about how it should have been him getting traded instead of Tyrese. I know you're one of those. I'm actually starting to become one of those people as well when it comes to that. But De'Aaron Fox has improved so much, especially from the perimeter now. I mean, he's averaging 23 a game. He's balling right now.
No, he definitely is.
Yeah, and then I know Anthony Davis missed some games, but I mean, he's averaging 28 and 12. I mean, you're putting up those numbers. How many times has somebody averaged 28 and 12 and didn't get a nod in?
I mean,
you get what I'm saying?
He did have a stretch where he was just dominating the league, man.
Yeah.
I don't remember Jaren Jackson doing that. If the whole argument is about injuries, then AD should have gotten it over.
And here's the thing, like, if it is about injury, we're gonna get into that in a second. But and another player is Anthony Edwards. I think if you're gonna pick somebody, Anthony Edwards deserved it over Jaren Jackson Jr. as well.
I definitely agree because Ant Edwards is the best player on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it's not even close.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to the starters, we got 4 out of the 5 correct.
Yep.
But we both had SGA. I'm shocked that he didn't get it. I understand. I think this is when the 50% of the vote comes in because SGA is not really like a fan favorite yet.
Yeah.
And for example, I'll tell this quick story real quick. When I met him in Vegas, I'm in Caesars, I bump into him. Nobody notices him except me. This guy's averaging 30 in the league right now. I mean, he's a top 10 player in the NBA right now. And you're telling me in Las Vegas, nobody notices him?
I'm not going to lie, man.
I was the only one. And it's not like I'm a diehard Oklahoma City fan. I'm a diehard Bulls fan.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing him, and he's coming towards me. I'm like, holy crap, that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But nobody else notices him? Like, it's insane.
I agree, man. It's crazy, too. But he plays for such a small market team. And I think unless you're like a true avid NBA fan, you're not going to recognize him because that's just the reality of the league.
Yeah, and when we got into Jaren Jackson Jr. missing so many games, this is why I think the All-Star selections this year has been so inconsistent because SGA, he should have been either over Steph or Zion. I think SGA he's averaging 31 a game right now, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Over 50% from the field, 36% from 3, 91% from the free throw line, and he's playing in 50 out of the 54 games currently. Steph has missed 15 games, and Zion's only played 29 out of 54 games. So if Jaren Jackson gets the nod, and he's missed so many games, then how does Steph and Zion both starters over SGA when SGA's putting up 30, and it's not like the Warriors are like a top 3 seed in the West. They're only like a game better than Oklahoma. And Golden State is the defending champs. They have the same core pieces together. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's not even playing with Chet Holmgren. He's really not playing with much talent either. And they have similar records. I don't understand.
I mean, the crazy thing is, now I will say he's not playing with just nobody. He is playing with Josh Giddey. So
he's playing with some young talent, but what I meant is like...
No, I know what you meant.
They have like Andrew Wiggins, Klay
no,
Thompson, Jordan Poole.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about having a core that was already fundamentally sound and has been established.
Exactly.
And you have a bunch of young guys who, again, they have 2 Jalen Williams playing in OKC. Mm-hmm. And for anybody that watched, the OKC and LA game yesterday, Shai didn't care that LeBron was going for the record. I mean, that man went out there and he was just going to hoop, all right? And I'm not going to lie, there was one play I was watching yesterday, and they had, I know it was Thomas Bryant and Dennis Schroeder were just doubling him, and it looked like SGA was just going to take a terrible shot and just miss it completely. This guy literally with like hand in his face just like casually just puts it up right off the glass, man, and he's been doing that all year, bro. So I'm just going to say I definitely agree with you on that. I don't think Steph deserved the starter this year because I know he's putting up numbers, but not delivering results. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and it's not like we're saying that SGA is a better overall player than Steph. I know neither of us would ever go that far. Like Steph Curry's the best point guard in the game. He's gonna go down probably as a top 10 best player in NBA history.
Oh, yeah.
You know, greatest shooter all time, all that, right? But we're just talking about this year specifically.
That's the thing too. I don't think Steph has shown that he deserved to be the starter this year. I'm not saying he can't be an all-star. I think he was going to be a reserve. I think that was very obvious in Steph Curry. We're not going to pretend like he doesn't exist. And I think too, Nick, as you were talking about Jaren Jackson, I definitely agree with you. The three players you talked about all deserved it over Jaren Jackson. And I mean, okay, let's pause even for 1 second. If you're the 1 seed, Denver, right? Where's your second player? Because, I mean, isn't it usually you get 2 All-Stars, like you're the first seed, so why is Memphis, who has been on the downward slope of recently, getting, a second All-Star? I get it. Jaren Jackson is a great player, and I'm not
this is no hate on Jaren Jackson.
No hate on Jaren Jackson. This is just our opinion. And, I mean, I know we talked about this outside the pod, and talking about how, there were definitely guys that putting up better numbers, played the same amount of games or more, and he's not getting in. Now, I will say that Sabonis definitely deserved his spot, and I think Sacramento, who we've talked about a lot this year, has been great. And I think everybody else in the West made sense. I don't really see anybody in the reserves that didn't deserve it. Ja, obviously.
I'm happy Lauri Markkanen got in.
Lauri deserved his flowers.
It's like Tyrese Halliburton in the East.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally 2 teams that everybody said were going to be garbage, trash. Both of them are in the play-in talk right now. Now, I don't know about Utah after this trade because they did just kind of unload the rest of their core, and I mean, they're going to.
But it's brilliant though by Danny because he knows even if they make it, they're not going to go further than the plan. They get eliminated, and there's no point. They're going to have a better draft pick this year. They got another first-round pick, and they're going to unload Russell Westbrook's salary, which adds even more salary cap in the offseason. It is so brilliant by Danny Ainge.
I agree.
It's so brilliant what he's doing right now with his team.
He really does know. He really is just a master and finesser of literally getting what he wants in a trade. And Nick, I think that's going to be definitely our next topic of teams that we're going to target and talk about in terms of trades. And guys, thank you for listening and continuing to listen. We're going to take one more break before we get back to our last topic. So stay tuned, and if any more trades come up, we might be talking a little bit more about that.
Yep.
But stay tuned, and we'll talk to you shortly. All right, so welcome back, guys, to our last topic of our episode for today. So, Nick, I know that we've been talking a lot about the All-Star selections, the Kyrie Irving trade. We just had a huge trade happen as we were recording today.
Yeah. So
I think that we wanted to talk about the teams that we think should sell for the trade deadline, and then teams that should be buyers into the trade deadline. And for anybody who doesn't know, the trade deadline does end tomorrow, I believe, at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So to just give you a quick rundown of the sellers, which we've already been talking about a lot, Utah. So Utah definitely just became a seller right now. To give you the full trade, the Lakers got D'Lo from the Timberwolves, and they got Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt from the Jazz. The Jazz traded Mike Conley to the Timberwolves with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and 2 second-round picks. And the Jazz are going to get Westbrook, Juan Toscano-Anderson, Damian Jones, and then that 2027 first-round pick from the Lakers. So, Nick, right away with that trade, how are you feeling in terms of, the direction of where Utah's going?
I think Utah, well, now clearly, even with surprising year that they've had. I mean, they're still in the the playoff play-in, and no one ever thought that right now. So Danny Ainge, even though it's been exciting for the franchise, but Danny Ainge still had his eye on the prize, which is to get as much first round picks. Now he has 15 unprotected or lightly protected first round picks until 2029. 15.
And I believe
it's insane.
What was the other thing? And I'm just gonna look.
And they're gonna dump Russell Westbrook's salary, or they're gonna buy him out, and they're gonna potentially have $60 million in the cap.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah,
$60 million in cap space, and the fact that they have Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen as their
and Amaji's pretty solid too, a pretty solid young player too. Yeah. So Utah fans, I know it's been kind of hard you're so used to making the playoffs every year with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Even when they had Bogdanovich, Mike Conley, they were making moves in the offseason to upgrade the roster. Now they're going on a downward spiral, but Danny Ainge knows what he's doing.
I definitely agree, and I think that Danny Ainge has had a history of being able to make great trades, and I mean, look at Boston. I mean, the trades he made, he had to ship out fan favorites and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, and while people weren't happy about it, I mean, look at what it got them: Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I mean, they got some great draft capital from that. Actually, not Jason Tatum, but at least Jaylen Brown, I know for sure. And I mean, that's the thing is that you have to think about it at the end of the day is that these draft picks, right? They are valuable and they can be moved for talent right now to win, or for if you want to wait and build around a guy that maybe you think is going to be your future. That's definitely there. And I mean, I think with the Jazz too, I think that they should try to shop Jordan Clarkson. I believe he has a lot of value. There are going to be teams that are going to need that secondary scorer coming off the bench. Sixth man. I mean, he's a proven player. He's won Sixth Man of the Year before. He's one of the last pieces from the old Jazz team. Yeah. I'm Danny Ainge. I'm taking the calls and I'm seeing what's going to happen.
Oh, he's definitely going to be getting a lot of calls now.
I definitely think so with that. And I mean, the other team too that I believe that we both agree that should sell. And I know some people that I know very well that love the Raptors. We're not going to be happy to hear that we think the Raptors should be a team that sells. Yeah. OG Anunoby definitely has been one of the biggest trade topics of the whole year. I think even since the season started, people were talking about OG getting traded. He almost got traded to the Blazers before the season started.
Yeah, and he's having a fantastic year too. Think about it, he's an unbelievable defender.
Oh yeah.
And he's a fourth option right now, averaging 17 points a game as a fourth option. And that's impressive.
And the fact is that he is a two-way player too, which is makes him even more
one of the best 3-and-D guys you could get in the league, especially who's on the market right now when it comes to players that are getting talked about possibly being traded, and he's probably one of them.
I definitely agree, and I think one thing too is that I think because of the Rudy Gobert trade, which again I think is going down is a really bad trade. Yeah. Now, after looking at everything that's happened and how Minnesota has basically gotten hoodwinked and bamboozled, as Stephen A. would say, I think that for them, they literally, it helped Toronto, but it really does not help any team that wants it because Masai Ujiri is putting a very big
asking price.
Yeah. So I think for the Raptors, they could come up kings in this situation because I think they want 2 draft picks for OG and at least a couple role players. They would rather have the role players than I think the draft capital. So I mean, you're gonna have to give up a lot.
And then there's talks right now with Fred VanVleet going to Brooklyn. They're gonna flip it with Spencer Dinwiddie and those picks that they got and stuff like that too. So it's gonna be very interesting what happens in Toronto because it's so weird because even though it looks like they're not going to not even make the play-in window, but think about it, they have so much talent. They got Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr. Yeah. They got some good talent on this team.
And they also have Scotty Barnes, too.
I didn't even mention Scotty Barnes, man.
Yeah, that.
I mean, those 5, that's...
No, they definitely have some talent. I think that they want to reload. I think what they want to do and what they should do is trade away 1 or 2 of those pieces, get some assets out of that, regroup, and then see what you can make out of that. I think that they'll keep Pascal Siakam. I know he's been in some trade talks with
Scotty Barnes too. He's not.
They'll definitely keep those 2. Now everybody else could be up for grabs. I don't know about Gary Trent. I don't know how many teams really need the shooting. I know every team can use more shooting, but I just think because he only provides shooting and he doesn't really provide anything else.
Yeah.
I don't know how many teams are going to really want to go because, again, the asking price is going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think definitely I think both of us agree, those two teams should be the sellers. Now, Nick, I know you have a lot to talk about with the three teams that we think should be buyers in this market.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of them has already bought, which is the Dallas Mavericks. They just got Kyrie Irving. But the issues that we talked about, especially at the beginning of this podcast episode, is they have no defense right now.
That is
They
very
have no
true.
perimeter defense. They have no 3-and-D guys, really. They just have a bunch of players that can score the basketball.
Yeah.
So they need some defensive 3-and-D wings, that could play defense on the perimeter, because Luka and Kyrie is not going to do that for you. And the one guy you had, Dorian Finney-Smith, you just traded, and guys that are be able to knock down the three. They do have a lot of those guys, but I think they need players that can do both. They just have a lot of players that can shoot the three.
Yeah,
right now.
You have Reggie Bullock's probably your best defender. And I'm not gonna.
Tim Hardaway Jr. can knock down the three. They got Bertans that can knock down the three.
Yeah, he can.
I think they need a big that's good both offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
I think the Christian Wood just didn't work out. They expected a lot more, and us as NBA fans, I think expected a lot more because of what he was producing in Houston. He was a monster in Houston, man. He was playing really good basketball. But there's rumors right now. There was rumors yesterday that Tim Hardaway Jr. and Christian Wood could be in the package to go into Phoenix to potentially get DeAndre Ayton. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think
because you need to trade a lot more than that to get DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
But if that were to happen, you pair Ayton with Kyrie and Luka, and you're able, to keep still a lot of the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Now it doesn't answer all the defensive questions, but at least you got a big that can protect the rim.
Yeah, because JaVale McGee has not been the answer.
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter yesterday a post of JaVale's lack of really being a rim defender, and it's very surprising because he is a pretty solid shot blocker. I know Dwight Powell has been their center, and he's really not a true center in terms of that. But he plays bigger than what he is.
Plays hard too.
And I think that Aiden would be too much of an asking price, and I know that I don't think they want Tim Hardaway Jr. and Christian Wood back, but I do know that a team somebody we were just talking about.
Every team's going to definitely be interested in those guys.
Yeah, and I think, I know this is crazy. I don't know how much draft capital that the Mavs have left, but I called Masai Ujiri and see, hey, how much is it going to cost us to really get OG? Because if I'm Dallas, I need a guy like that because I don't have that right now. But I have enough guys that can score the basketball. So like you said, what is Mark Cuban willing to give up? And how much does he really want to win? Because right now as they're constructed, I think at best case, I think there's still going to be a Western Conference Finals appearance if everything goes right.
Yeah.
But I just can't see them winning with this constructed team right now. I think they still need another piece.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think especially from the defense end, they need a couple pieces.
Yeah.
They can even use a guy like a Jay Crowder right now on their team now.
That's crazy because Jay Crowder actually played a solid amount of time in Dallas. I think he played a couple, maybe 1 or 2 seasons there. So, bringing him back to Dallas, who knows? But what about somebody that, or another team actually that we've been talking about, Philly, right?
Yeah, Philly. So, they're third in the East right now. I just think, as presently constructed, they're a great basketball team. They got a lot of talent. They do fill a lot of holes that a lot of teams wish they had, but I just think they wouldn't be able to beat Milwaukee or Boston. So we're bringing up Philly just because if they want to make these moves, if they potentially make these moves that we're going to be discussing in a second here, they could potentially beat one of those teams and get to a conference finals, and you never know what happens from there. I just think that Philly, they got a lot of they have a starting firepower. But they don't have consistent bench scores that can get you a bucket.
Yeah.
Maybe call Utah for Jordan Clarkson and see what they could give up. Or even Houston, they're tanking. They're selling. Aaron Gordon's still out there.
So are you telling me that the Philadelphia 76ers are going to become the Philadelphia Rockets? Because, they already got Dwayne House, PJ Tucker, James Harden. I think Aaron Gordon wants to come back. Maybe get Chris Paul, too. We can have that 2018 Rockets team.
I'm just going by, scores that can contribute off the bench. And those two are probably... And Jordan Clarkson would probably be a big asking price. Yeah. But someone like Eric Gordon, I don't think Philly would have to give up that much. Especially there's a couple guys. What's his name? That just
he asked for a trade.
Those are just two guys that can create their own shot. They can shoot the three really well.
Yeah.
They can spread the floor too. For Harden and Embiid when he has the ball at the mid-range area or when he's posting up, things of that nature. And I think they really need a true
backup
center to Embiid.
Yeah.
And because Montrezl Harrell, energy guy, he's not a center.
No, he never has been.
This might be a big asking price. They need a center like Jakob Poeltl. If they could somehow make a deal happen and get him I understand Jakob Poeltl is a starter on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
But if you could get him coming off your bench, playing 25 to 28 minutes a night off the bench for Embiid, man, that'd be very interesting.
Hey, I mean, let's just be honest here, all right? Jakob Poeltl right now is probably one of the hottest names in the NBA just in terms of centers. And another thing that I was reading while we were on break too is that Jakob Poeltl, apparently there's a possibility that he might get traded back to Toronto. So I mean, Philly should see what they would really have to give up to get somebody like that. I would also say, for Philly, see what happens in the buyout market.
Absolutely.
Maybe there's a big that gets bought out. I have no idea. You never know. But they haven't had a true backup center since. I know that Drummond was good for them, but
Dwight Howard.
I was gonna say Dwight Howard. I think Dwight Howard was more of that true center where he was a rebounder, he's a rim defender. Drummond is. I don't know how to explain this, but Drummond is very frustrating as a Bulls fan because he can be very goofy or he can actually be very helpful, and I just feel with him, he's not a
couple nights ago he was unreal.
Oh, he was. He was doing everything, but last night in Memphis, man, with the double dribble, with the Euro, I'm just what is going on? I'm this is why he gets called the Big Penguin.
Oh my God, yeah.
But he definitely. I mean, I don't think Chicago would trade Drummond, just because I don't think AK wants to do any trades. But I guess you could always make a call and see if you can get a guy like Drummond back. But,
I know you wanted to bring up one more team, man.
So I think one more team that really should be buying at this trade deadline. And if you want to keep KD happy, man, I think Brooklyn has to make one more move because right now you're sitting at a position that is kind of okay, you're either going to be remembered as one of the biggest failed big threes out there. I think the Lakers right now own that after the trade with Utah. But I'm just going to say that make KD happy, make a trade. Whether it's Fred VanVleet, whether it's somebody else that you can get, I would see what teams want and how much you're willing to give up because
that's interesting.
You have Dorian Finney-Smith, right, as a 3-and-D.
There's so many guys that can defend and they can shooting too.
I agree. Try and flip Dinwiddie for something else because you have draft picks and draft capital. I know they want to move off Simmons. Let's not lie here.
I don't know what interest he'll get right now, unfortunately, but
zero. Yeah. He's not getting any interest.
What's interesting too is the reports, especially today that came out, is teams are actually not wanting to take calls from Brooklyn because they don't want Brooklyn to get somebody to make Kevin Durant happy. They want Kevin Durant to be available so teams can start going after him.
So basically, Joe Tsai's going to get what happened to him from all these other teams. Oh, you want this player? Give us half your team because. Really, at the end of the day, is that the only way that Brooklyn can dig themselves out of this hole that unfortunately they've dug themselves in since 2021 when they gave up Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, and multiple other assets. It's basically been trying to build around veterans and then trying to get another trade. So when they got Harden, obviously, then they tried to flip that and see, okay, well, Harden's not happy here. Okay, let's take a chance with Simmons. Ben Simmons is not the guy that he once was in Philly, and now you're sitting here just kind of well, we're fourth in the East right now, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if they dropped down to fifth, but I believe they were fourth the last time I checked.
They're somewhere around fourth or fifth for sure.
So you're still relevant. Now make a move. You have the pieces to trade. I don't know what team would want to work with them. I think Toronto could be that team, but we'll see what happens. And again, you got to be buyers at the waiver wire too. We'll see what players get bought out.
It doesn't have to be a big name either, but even if they somehow pulled it off, I got Fred VanVleet, right? He's not a Kyrie Irving,
no,
but he's another guy that Brooklyn desperately needs right now. that can go get a bucket besides KD.
Exactly.
Fred VanVleet is that.
Exactly.
And he's got heart, man. I love Fred VanVleet's game.
I will just say the one untouchable guy you cannot put in a trade for Brooklyn is Nick Claxton. Don't give
Don't do it.
Don't give him up. That's your only rim defense.
Don't do it.
You will regret that decision for a very long time.
That was what Toronto, they want Claxton.
They want Claxton. They value him a lot. So if they try to throw Simmons into a trade with that,
unless, in my opinion, if you could somehow get Pascal Siakam to pair up with Kevin Durant, you got to do it. You have to give up that Claxton.
I agree. I mean, Pascal Siakam is
because there's been a little rumors that they were talking about it, but
they were. But I don't know if Masai wants to do that because I think he wanted to keep Pascal Siakam. I don't think that was a guy he wanted to truly move. I just think that he wants to move Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby, and I think those are the two that he's definitely been wanting to move. So we'll see, man. I mean, hey,
we still got till tomorrow to figure out what else goes down, man. I'm very excited for this, man. Clock's ticking.
Clock is ticking. These teams, I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I think definitely great topics that we talked about today, man. And always appreciate the great combos that we have. But before we go, real quickly, I know that a lot of people have seen this already, but just want to say real quickly, congratulations to LeBron James for breaking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. It's definitely a great feat for him, and now that he just got another wish, unload Westbrook, just kind of like props to you, man. I don't want to say F you like he did on live TV, but
my opinion is still not better than Jordan, but again, it's a huge congrats, to somebody that's been great for so long. You can't deny that. Obviously, he's one of those guys you either love or you desperately hate.
Yeah.
I'm personally not one of LeBron's biggest fans, but you can't deny what he's done for the game of basketball.
No, I definitely agree with that, and that's just something that like a lot of people, I think, unfortunately, just don't not comprehend, but just don't take into like consideration when they start talking about it, because in a lot of situations, I think that he does unfairly get like shit on for things that maybe he really shouldn't. But again, that's a topic for another day.
Yep.
But guys, thank you for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. So follow us on Spotify, follow us on Twitter. Me and Nick want to get more content out on our Twitter page, so we're going to definitely be posting a lot more polls, short videos, and whatever else we could think of. But I just wanted to say, guys, thank you. And we'll see you after the trade deadline. So let's see what happens.
See what happens, man.
All right. Peace out.